Welcome back to the Tracy Take. I am your co-host, Tyler, here with my brother, Ryan. And today we will be previewing the offseason needs for all of the NFC North teams. But before we get into that, be sure to hit that subscribe button if you have not already. Ryan and I, we love growing our community, and we've been putting out a lot more content since the start of the year. We are already up to close to 200 more subscribers this year to the channel, sitting at over 500. So we would love, it would be a huge astronomical goal to accomplish, but if we get to 1,000 by the NFL draft, that would be unbelievable. So if you have not already, help out the channel, subscribe, hit that like button. It's the easiest way to help us out to reach our goals, and we greatly appreciate it. So that also being said, leave a comment on what your thoughts are on, I guess, our opinions on what your team needs, and we're going to start out with the Chicago Bears, who outside of quarterback need everything.
Yeah.
So, and let's absolutely stop that conversation or stop the talking point right now. Anyone that is saying that Bears might trade Justin Fields so then they can get a quarterback in this first round, this first overall pick, they're just saying that because it's a 24-hour sports network system. Like, that's not going to happen. Like, let's just cut that right there.
Yeah,
I think that is ridiculous. I know on this channel we have been hard of Justin Fields, but I think it's because like we see the potential and the things he can work on. And the Bears have utterly failed him up to this point. We really don't even know the type of potential that he has. Outside of the fact we know he can run the ball extremely well. And that is like one of the only positive things I would say about this Bears offseason, or this Bears past season, was that they found out Justin Fields can be really effective running the ball.
No, I agree. That for me, Justin Fields scrambling, I think, puts defenses in a blender. He actually looked good throwing the ball on the run. I don't have his statistics for that specifically, but I know mid-season from the Patriots game to win, I think he got hurt against the Falcons.
He got banged up a little bit. He had over 1,000 rushing yards. He had 1,143 rushing yards with 8 touchdowns. I did make a note. He had 16 fumbles. I don't know. That I think can be a little misleading because those could be sack-related fumbles or maybe even not fumbles for loss. So I didn't know how to take that, but there's just a number I noticed. But he had nearly for every he had 2,200 passing yards. So for every 2 passing yards, he had 1 yard.
And I think a lot of that was the way that the Bears found success was running bootlegs and doing design quarterback runs that would really throw defenses off. And it worked. They had a pretty good stretch in the year where I think they went 3-3. And I want to say that was, or no, they won their first game. So I think they went 2-2 because they only won 3 games. So, but they had a good stretch there where the offense looked competent. They lost to some good teams like the Miami Dolphins. And one of the things I do want to point out, their 1 possession record was 1-7. And that's just kind of like, if you looked at the Lions from 2 seasons ago, that was kind of how they were. They lost a lot of really close games. And I think the Bears were in a similar situation, just without maybe the hopefulness for next season. So
that's exactly what I was going to say. Is like, 1-7 in 1 possession is yes, but even then during the Lions team, like if you go back and watch our videos and we're talking about it, like this Lions team has potential. Like they're right there, and they proved it this year. We're going to get to them here in a later episode. But the Bears, it's
they're
not very hopeful for. They're going to be picking in the top 5 again next year.
And
it's almost a sure thing. I would say it's almost a sure thing.
You could tell that they were in a rebuild stage by the way they were selling off their assets during the season. I was actually very surprised that they made the trade for Chase Claypool. However, I guess at a certain point you do need to start bringing in talented players and not just sending them away. And Chase Claypool had a few good games for them.
He played 7 games. He only had 14 catches for 140 yards.
Really?
So that's what I'm saying. I think they traded for a name, especially also too if you're looking at what they traded for. There's a 2nd round pick. I would think in hindsight they would want that pick back, considering like the receiving talent that is going to be there. I think that they would.
Too.
Compared to I don't know if it was a swap of 2nd round picks. I would need to double check that. Comment on
I
the
don't
channel.
think it was a swap. I think it was just a second for Chase Claypool. But
Okay. So I think that they would want that pick back.
no. I do too. I just think another thing. I don't know how many of those games Justin Fields played with Chase Claypool.
That's fair. Yeah.
And so I think Chase Claypool will be set up for a better 2023. But like you said, I would rather be picking at 32.
Yeah.
Let's move on to kind of what they did this year. So offensively and defensively, I want to say they were pretty much at the bottom of the league. They were 28th in offense, and I know they were 30.
They were 32nd. Oh, well, in points allowed, they were 32nd.
Yeah,
they were
in points allowed, they were 32nd. Yeah.
At least they can only go upward in essentially every category. So that I would say the first thing that popped out to me in this past season.
Sorry, they were 23rd in points a game.
Okay.
Not 27.
The thing that popped out to me is they have no weapons to throw. Cole Kmet, I think, is solid. I just think he's their only somewhat decent weapon. He's not an elite tight end, but he was at least a consistent guy that Justin Fields would throw to.
I like Darnell Mooney. He was banged up this year a good bit.
Yeah.
And Justin Fields has shown to have a decent connection with him in his rookie year and when they played together this year. And so I think they definitely need to improve that. For me, I look at this offensive line and it was just
both of the lines were atrocious. Well, that being said, though, I will say they were, according to PFF, they were 14th overall actually in the offensive line rankings. That being said, though, I think that there absolutely could be some improvement as well. Tevin Jenkins, when healthy, was one of the top guards in the league. However, I think that they could probably still bolster that offensive line. I know we talked about them maybe going after Orlando Brown Jr. because they have the cap space. Why not?
And he hasn't been tagged yet. So
yeah, he hasn't been tagged yet.
The Chiefs only have a few days left to tag him. One of the things that I would say about the offensive line, sometimes those numbers can be misleading when you have a quarterback as elusive as Justin Fields. And so I think definitely getting more athletic and more powerful offensive linemen would be a good move on their part with a young quarterback. Also, that will help the wide receivers that they do have get open. It's going to be interesting to see. So with the Jalen Carter situation, if you guys haven't heard, he now has an arrest warrant out for or Athens PD has an arrest warrant out for Jalen Carter. What they decide to do, because if they trade back to 4, now they're not guaranteed Will Anderson or Jalen Carter. Because Jalen Carter might not actually be in this draft anymore, depending on the severity of what's going on. And so I think that makes picking at 1 a little more interesting. So
maybe it is something. So you would still have Tyree Wilson that's there. Let's say Will Anderson doesn't go, or if things get a little more serious with Jalen Carter, it's very early, innocent until proven guilty, and it's just I think it's it was an arrest warrant that was submitted for Jalen Carter, but I'm curious kind of how that is going to affect the draft stock. There's going to be obviously a lot of research that gets put into that. Very curious on what can happen to his draft stock, but to me, honestly, in my thoughts before everything happened with Jalen Carter is it made it even more and more obvious for me that the Colts is going to be the best team for them to trade for, because either way, Jalen Carter, Will Anderson, or I guess also now Tyree Wilson will for sure be there at number 4. And they can go and get a second-round pick in this year's draft, replace the one that they traded for Chase Claypool, still go get that receiver or a receiver that they like that is in that draft. And so it'd be a win-win in both categories, I would think. And so whether Jalen Carter is still going to be there or not, because their entire defensive line sucked. They, according to PFF, as we said, as you also mentioned, numbers can be a little scary. But even then, all the defensive line members that had stats that were of worth reason were ranked above 100 out of the 120 or 126 players eligible, considering the position that it was there. So they don't have a good defensive line at all. They don't have good
Yeah.
defense and anything. So
I
I
would
think
couple
that would
with
be an
the front
immediate need.
seven. The front seven as a whole, I think needs to be revamped. They traded away Roquan Smith and Robert Quinn. And so for me, I think that like when you're looking at a young team, you need to rebuild that front seven, get at least a solid pass rush going, and then beef up that offensive line for your young quarterback and maybe get him another weapon to throw to. Because I think, like you said, with Cole Kmet, Darnell Mooney, Chase Claypool, if they can get a Josh Downs in the with like, what would that be, the 30,
maybe 36 with
if they trade back with the Colts?
Yeah, it'd be first 36. It just if they did first, second, and then others. The Colts
it would be,
round
I think
pick is the 36.
It would be
or 30.
It'd be 35 because the Dolphins don't have a first round pick.
Yeah, or 35. For now, I was
so like if they can get a Josh Downs or maybe even like a Tank Dell, I think would be an interesting fit.
That'd be crazy
with them at 35. So I definitely think the Chicago Bears have some good pieces to play around with, whether it's players or draft picks. I think now they just have to make the right move and see how it goes. So I think that's going to wrap up. Well, make the right move. I don't know exactly what that is for them, but get pieces that fit your system, get good players, and move forward. So put a better product on the field than you did the season before. So, and with the Bears, that's not saying much. So that's going to wrap up the Chicago Bears. Like I said, I think they have some good pieces moving forward, and I'm excited to see what they have or what they do with them going forward. So